Today, we are diving into one of the most powerful books ever written, Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. Now, this is a book born from one of the darkest chapters in human history, yet somehow it delivers this incredible message of hope and purpose that people are still talking about all these years later. The whole thing really boils down to this one single, staggering question. How? When literally everything is taken from you, your home, your family, your name, even your dignity, how can life possibly have any meaning left? That's the question we're going to explore. And to really get his answer, you have to understand the setting. This wasn't some theoretical armchair philosophy. Frankl's laboratory, if you can call it that, was Auschwitz, a Nazi concentration camp, a place he literally described as a living hell. And this is what makes his perspective so unbelievably unique. Viktor Frankl wasn't just prisoner number 119104, he was also Dr. Frankl, a trained psychiatrist. So even in the absolute depths of despair, his mind was still working, observing, analyzing, trying to figure out what separated the people who gave up from the ones who somehow found a way to keep going. So what did he find? Well, looking at the world through this dual lens of prisoner and doctor, he stumbled upon a profound discovery, a freedom so deep, so fundamental that no one, not even the camp guards, could ever take it away. Let's be really clear about what we're talking about here. Life was just a constant, brutal fight against starvation, freezing cold, and pure exhaustion. They took your clothes, your hair, your name. You were just a number. Every single second of every day was a battle for your life. It was an all-out war on the human spirit. And yet, in the middle of all that horror, Frankl saw something incredible. He saw men and women walking from person to person, comforting them, and even giving away their own last tiny piece of bread. Now, these might seem like small things, but in that environment, they were monumental acts of humanity. And that gets us to the heart of his discovery. The guards could control your body, they could control your environment, they could control pretty much everything on the outside, but they could never, ever touch your inner response. That was yours alone. Even when everything else is gone, the freedom to choose your attitude, that remains. Okay, so you have this inner freedom to choose. But what fuels it? What keeps that flame alive when everything is telling you to give up? Well, that brings us to the second pillar of Frankl's philosophy. Frankl often brought up this quote from the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche because he saw it play out in real life every single day. The hell of surviving in the camp was just unimaginable. The only thing that made it bearable for anyone was having a powerful why. So what was Frankl's why? For him, it was a few things. He would have these intensely real conversations with his wife in his mind, just to feel close to her. He'd imagine himself standing in a lecture hall after the war, teaching students about the very psychology he was witnessing. And he had this manuscript, his life's work, that the Nazis had destroyed. He was determined, absolutely determined, to survive so he could rewrite it. You see, all of these things, a person, a purpose, a project, they acted like an anchor in a hurricane of despair. They gave the brutal, meaningless present a point. Frankl saw over and over that the prisoners who lost that sense of a future, who felt like their purpose was gone, they were often the first to fade away. Now, this all builds to what might be Frankl's most radical idea, and it's a real mind-bender. He argued that we don't just find meaning in spite of suffering. Sometimes we can find it because of suffering. This is the absolute core of the therapy he founded after the war, called logotherapy. Logos is just the Greek word for meaning. And unlike a lot of other therapies that dig into your past, logotherapy is all about the future. It's about finding that purpose that pulls you forward. Frankl tells this incredible story from his practice that just perfectly explains this. An old man came to him, just completely shattered by grief. He had lost his wife of many years, who he had loved more than anything, and he just couldn't move on. So Frankl listens, and then he asks a question that changes everything. He doesn't just offer sympathy. He asks, "Tell me, what would have happened if you had died first and she had to live on without you?" And the old man just stopped. He thought about it for a moment and said, "Oh, that would have been terrible for her. She would have suffered so much." And in that moment, you can just imagine the light bulb going on. He realized his own terrible pain was the price he paid so that his wife didn't have to feel it. And just like that, everything shifted. The suffering didn't disappear. The pain was still there, but it wasn't meaningless anymore. It was now a sacrifice. It was a final, profound act of love for his wife. And because it had a purpose, he could now bear it. And that right there, that ability to find meaning even in the worst pain imaginable, that is how you unlock that ultimate freedom we talked about at the start. It's how we can apply this whole philosophy to our own lives, right now. This all comes together in what is probably his most famous quote ever, and for very good reason. It is a literal blueprint for human freedom. Something happens, the stimulus. We react, the response. But the real magic, the power, our entire freedom, lives in that tiny little space in between. Think about it this way. The stimulus is something you can't control, right? Someone cuts you off in traffic. The instinctive, knee-jerk response is anger. But the space is that split second where you get to pause. And in that space, you choose. Do you lay on the horn and lose your cool, or do you take a deep breath and just let it go? That choice, made over and over and over again, that is where your character, your growth, and your freedom are built. And so Frankl's work really leaves us all with this final essential question. Life is always going to throw challenges at us, big and small. A lot of the time, the circumstances are totally out of our control. But in that space, between what happens to you and how you respond to it, that's where your greatest power lies. The only question left is, what are you going to do with it?